Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all's well. Keep up the beautiful work. Today is Tuesday, Parashat Yitro. If last week everybody on Tuesday delved into the core of the parasha, according to some opinions, was the falling of the man, and everybody said Shnai Mikra V'Had Targum for the parasha of the man. And in this week's parasha, it's all about receiving the Torah, the Ten Commandments, Am Yisrael. The whole purpose of the world being created was for the Torah, and that's what you're doing at this moment. That we got the Ten Commandments, not the movie, the Chilkon Shema Yisrael. We got the Aseret HaDebrot, BTW. We'll talk about it again. But while we're on the subject, we don't stand up for the Ten Commandments. If someone we don't do it. If someone gets their rabbi or father that goes up to the Torah, then they could stand up from the beginning of Aliyah. But the actual Ten Commandments, we don't highlight too much because back then the Haramiyeh, the wise guys, there were wise guys in every generation. How you doing? They used to walk around telling people only the Ten Commandments were given by Hashem, and the other 603 were by Moshe and not Hashem. So because of they used to say, look at the proof. Everybody stands for the Ten Commandments and they sit down for the rest. So because of that, we don't stand up for the Ten Commandments by itself when we read the Torah. So if the Torah was given in this week's parasha, and last Tuesday we were emphasizing the berachot, so today is Tuesday, we're gonna milk into the berachot of the Torah regarding receiving the Torah. And Hashem is looking at you and He's proud of you, how you go to class every day, you pray every day, you do hesed every day, Torah, Avodah, Gemilut, Hasadim, the three pillars that hold up the world, you are fulfilling. So Hashem will hold you up, Be'ezrat Hashem, with His pillars. We are continuing the laws of making berachot. Today's class is Leuli Nishmat, Margalit, Bat Bolisa, and Bel Tashbih, Bel Tashbih, Bel Tashbih, Refuah Shelemah, Refuah HaNefesh, Refuah HaGuf, L'kol Cholei Amo Yisrael, U'bichlalam, Refael, Hayim ben Gloria, Refael, Shaul ben Sarah. Please Hashem send Malach Refael down to heal all those that need Refuah Shelemah. So we all know that if a person makes ha'etz on a cantaloupe, you did not fulfill your obligation. But if you made adama on an apple, you did fulfill your obligation with the beracha. On any item that comes from a tree, if by mistake you said adama, the law is that it covered it because the tree comes out of the actual ground. And since you say adama, it's true. But if you make ambatich, if you take a piece of watermelon and you make ha'etz, then that's wrong because etz means a tree, and there's no tree in the ground where the watermelon comes out from. So therefore, you did not fulfill your obligation if you said ha'etz on something that grows from the ground. The question comes up, we know there's another halacha, that when a person is not sure what beracha to make, you know if you say shahakol, you're good. Why? Because shahakol means everything. Bakol mikol kol. Inshallah Hashem will give us all the beracha. So now shahakol covers everything. So if a person made shakol on grape juice, a person made shakol on a pizza, whatever it is, you cover yourself by saying shahakol. So now the question comes up, you have a fruit that you're not sure if it's ha'adama or ha'etz. We mentioned that there are certain fruits like that. A papaya is a machloket. At the end of the day, we made adama. A banana is a machloket, but we end up also making adama. Believe it or not, banjan, hatzilim, eggplant is also a question if it's a adama or ha'etz, believe it or not. And pineapple, some people make ha'etz and some people make hadama. We make hadama. True story. Of course, not in our schools in this tri-state area, but it's possible that when I was teaching in Wisconsin, someone said, Rabbi, you brought the snow to Brooklyn. I said, what makes you say that? He says, because all you do is say Wisconsin, and you brought Wisconsin weather here. I said, no, it's really because of Trump. He keeps talking about Greenland, and we got Greenland weather. We need him to focus on the Panama Canal a little, and then we'll get the weather of Panama. But long story short, true story, a little kid in school, I said that a mango is ha'etz. And there was a girl, like I said, in Wisconsin, USA, and she tells me I always thought a mango, what true story, was an egg from a flamingo. So I thought eggs are shahakol. How you doing? So that's why tuition is not as much in Wisconsin, but it is over here because our children are learning and they know, of course, the difference between a flamingo egg and a tree mango. Anyway, back to our subject. So now you have both of them in front of you. You have a fruit that you're not sure if it's ha'etz or adama. So people say if you're not sure, you make shahakol. For example, we know berries are ha'etz. We said all berries except strawberries, but now there's a lot of new fruits out there. The dragon, the night of Tu B'Shvat, I didn't even know what they're called, and I was scared to touch some of them, right? However, Hashem made it, and it's part of enjoying this world. But if you're not sure what beracha to make on a fruit, is it ha'etz or adama? Should you go the shahakol route or should you go the adama route? And survey says you should say adama on it because it's better than saying shahakol. Because why can't you say shahakol on everything? Why didn't the rabbis just institute one beracha? If shahakol is everything, make shahakol on grape juice, make shahakol on mizonot, make shahakol on bread, make shahakol on whatever it is. Why even bother? We have so many questions. Is it papaya? Is it avocado? Is it guava? Is this? Is that? Right? It would be so much easier to say shahakol on everything. The answer is because the more you specify where the food or fruit came from, the more amazing it is. If you say a robust, delicious pomegranate or apple came from a piece of wood, that makes God's greatness even greater in your eyes. If you just say he created everything, fine. But if you say you have a piece of wood where there's no life to it, it seems like, of course, there is when it's attached to the tree, but that an apple came out of that the apple juice, the sugar, and the red color came out of wood, it came out of dirt in the ground. So, of course, the more you specify the beracha, the more you're proclaiming God's greatness, and therefore it's better to say adama on a fruit that you're not sure if it's ha'etz or adama than it is to say shahakol. Now, what's the law if someone we know usually ha'etz goes before ha'adama? That means if you have an apple and bananas, I think there's some kind of song in school they sing, you have an apple and you have a banana. So now the apple technically goes first. If you make ha'etz on the apple and then you have the banana, where some people say it's ha'etz, Batya tells us, believe it or not, when you make ha'etz on the apple, you should really have in mind, and I'm not fulfilling my beracha obligation for the banana. That's not covering it. And therefore, you could still make ha'adama on the banana or the pineapple or the papaya, where some people say it's ha'etz. So in that situation, you should have in mind when you have ha'etz first. The next subject the rabbi gets to is seeds, right? I know some good people, they bring seeds all the way from Eretz Israel and they plant them in their garden. Here, just make sure the kelb that's in the customs doesn't come too close to you because how you doing? But anyway, short story long, what's the beracha on seeds? So we have to give a little intro before we get there because a item that has a tree or even something that grows from the ground, that you get out of it a second item. There's primero, there's the primary and the secondary. For example, you have yourself a pumpkin, right? If you have a pumpkin, that's adama. But what about pumpkin seeds? The bizir, is that adama or shakol? Before we hang up, pay attention. The rule is that technically they're shahakol. So why do we buy bizir, we make adama on it. You go to a sebit, you see bizir on the table, if you right, you make adama. So why did I say it's shakol if it's adama? And a couple of other things are brought down that it's shakol. Seeds from a watermelon. They are, I don't think if you see them too much, but in Israel you see them all over. They are Ha'adamah today, but in the older books it says Shahakol. What's going on here? So the rule is like this. Like we said, if you have primary and secondary, the secondary goes down a beracha one notch. So therefore, if it grows from the ground, you have a pumpkin, you make Ha'adamah on the pumpkin seeds are Shahakol because it's one step down, it's secondary, and therefore it goes down a level when it comes to the beracha. We go to shakol. However, because it became such a business out there that they grow the pumpkins for the pumpkin seeds in these factories, in these huge companies, since they're growing the pumpkin for the seeds, the primary became the seeds. So the primary would be ha'adama. They don't even sell the pumpkin. They'll give it to like crocodile land for food for the farmers, for the crocodiles, whatever it might be. But since the pumpkin in that situation is secondary, believe it or not, it would be shakol, the pumpkin, and the seed would be ha'adama. So that's why today, even when you buy watermelon seeds, Havadyan, the older books would write shakol, but nowadays it's ha'adama because it became the primary. The same thing goes with a tree. If you have, we know you eat a date, it's ha'etz. We know if you have the heart of the palm, then the hearts of palm are ha'adama. Why are hearts of palm ha'adama? If it comes from a tree, it comes from a palm tree. They take the branches and they cut the inside, and you get the palm, the heart of the palm, and then they pickle it, and then you're able to eat it, right? Sometimes you could go to a store when we were just in South America, Latin America, whatever you want to call it. They have all these exotic fruits, and they have heart of the palm, and they had non-pickled ones that you could just buy in the store. I'm sure you could get that here too. So since the date is the primary on these items, and therefore the heart of palm becomes ha'adama. What's the law with peels? Orange peels are shakol. I don't think there's any company out there that grows the orange for the peels, that the peel will be the primary and it's ha'etz. Obviously, it's not even really food, it's not fruit, and therefore it is shahakol. So you get yourself chocolate covered orange peels. That is shahakol. However, what's the law with an etrog? Sometimes you have a chocolate covered orange peel. There be jenen, Baruch Hashem. We should eat with good health. But when it comes to an etrog, a lot of etrogim, it's like the entire thing is the peel. One of the, by the way, if someone would cut open the etrog after Sukkot and they see a lot of fruit in there, mistama, probably that is a grafted with a lemon etrog, which is not kosher, but it's possible to still have fruit in there. But the real, at least Yemenite etrogim, and the real etrog, the whole thing is peel, is not. So what do we do there? If someone has etrog jelly, is it shakol? Is it ha'etz? And the answer is, Hawadiah says, if it's the outside of the etrog, then it's shakol. But if it's the white that's on the inside of the item, believe it or not, that is ha'etz, and therefore If a person takes out a candied etrog, piece of etrog, Tu B'Shvat time, so a lot of people still have fadlats, leftovers from Tu B'Shvat, then you make ha'etz on it. But if it's only the outside, then you would make shahakol. We know juices, of course, are also shahakol, orange juice, etc., because the main thing is the fruit. And then here, over here, it's even less than one step down. It's shahakol. Now, what's the law? They have these carrot juices that they just put the item into a machine and then you get the carrot juice. What would be the law with carrot juice? Is it ha'adama or shakol? Why would it be different? Orange juice, you still have the fruit left. So it's really just the liquid that came out of the thing. Over here, you took out the guts and the insides and everything of the carrot. It's more of the carrot than a regular juice from a fruit. And the rabbi tells us it's still shakol. So if you get yourself a carrot juice, we make on it shakol as well. Now we know there's a halacha that we have to, if we want a housekeeper or someone not from our nation to touch the wine, or if we know they're going to touch the wine, then it has to be mivushal, as we know. The reason for that is simple, because we're afraid, the rabbis were afraid that when they touch the wine, a wine is a ceremonial item. They used to pour it as a libation for the sacrifices, and we do it for the real sacrifices in the Beit HaMikdash on the Mizbeach, right? We call it Nesech. Etc. We pour water on Sukkot time. So there are people out there not from our nation that are very religious. Sometimes you go into when we were kids and the Chadame had their own bathroom. There was a whole shrine in there. Would be bachaf to go in there. They have a million pictures, a million candles. Uli alena. Still, I'm getting nightmares till this day. Anyway, long story short, since they're very religious and thinking of their avodah zarah, so we're afraid if they touch the wine and have one thought, this would be good as a sacrifice to the idols. I don't know if that's really happening today, but once the rabbis come along and forbid, they forbid and it's forbidden. So therefore, if they you have to be careful if they touch the wine. But once it's mevushal, it does not go on the mizbeach anymore, our mizbeach. And since wine that's cooked doesn't go on the mizbeach, so it's not fit as a sacrifice, and therefore, when they touch it, it's also not fit as a sacrifice, and we're not afraid that they had thoughts of avodah zarah, because it makes no sense. You don't bring that for a libation, and therefore, if they touch it, it's okay, no problem. There's a machloket if it's pasteurized, do we look at it like it's cooked? Mivushal means cooked, right? If it's pasteurized, Batya holds that that's considered mivushal. Not every rabbi out there. So it's possible that a wine might say lo mivushal. It's not mivushal, but it really was pasteurized. So before you throw it out, if it's a very expensive bottle of wine, then you should look into it. Maybe it was pasteurized in the factory and it says lo mevushal because some hold pasteurized is not. So long story short, there's a problem. We have grape juice. 99% of the grape juice that we have around here is mevushal. Some people are strict, believe it or not. Some Ashkenaz, they're strict that they won't use anything mevushal to make kiddush or havdalah or for the 4 cups of wine on Passover. So they still, believe it or not, make regular Kedem grape juice, but it's not mevushal. When we were kids, they had that huge glass bottle shaped like a dreidel type with the long neck with the wide bottom, and so today they're all plastic. The big bottles that we have of grape juice. But if you see that glass one from the old days, the reason why they still have those is because they have the non-mevushal ones for people that are strict. So if you do buy a bottle like that and you have it in the kitchen, now the thinner glass ones are mevushal, but the old jug